for it. All right. Okay. All right, we are going to start this meeting officially at 7:06 on 12/19. I know. That's just to get it properly in the record. Just want to give a quick welcome to everybody who is watching us or who will be watching us over the break. Before we start the meeting, I actually want to acknowledge that we did have a resignation. Karen Lynch has decided to resign from the board. And I want to be on the record saying thank you to Karen for all of her hard work and dedication. She is one of how should I say this? She's one of our many soldiers in the city that is like, just out there doing everything, doing her thing. And I know that she'll be very involved. She'll be missed, but just want to say thank you to Karen Lynch for all her hard work and support and yeah. So with that being said, we're going to roll right into the agenda. Item number 1, I put on for public comment. If there are any members of the public that have any questions that they would like us to address, this is the time to do it. If they had anything that they wanted to state for us, this is where they would do it. I think moving forward, just so as we know for the board, I think that this is again another standing item that will always be on the agenda. Just when we have people who are interested in coming, who want to be on board, and if there's anything that they would like to tell us or whatever, this would be the place to say it. I think that, how should I say this? I think that when people come into our, people can come into our live meetings, but I think what we should do, just kind of like what the school committee and the city council does, is that anybody that wants to be a part of it kind of has to be set off to the side. And if the chair, meaning myself, wants to recognize that person from the community, we can, but I think that in order to be respectful of everybody who's been elected and everybody's time on this board, I think that, that should be something that we should set going forward. But like I said, that's why I want to put in that public comment section so that if there is anybody that wants to talk or ask us questions, and then later on in the program or later on in our agenda, we can address, whatever was brought before us. Any questions on that? Any comments? I don't want to run a dictatorship. This is not a dictatorship or an authoritarian. I'm not an authoritarian by any means whatsoever, but.
I appreciate that it's put on the agenda, moving forward, maybe not for the January meeting, when we'll discuss that later on in the agenda, but moving forward, Uma will take the responsibility of sending out the Zoom link prior, and the meeting time and dates and social media on our website, so that if the public does want to make a comment at our live meetings, they're welcome to do so.
Yeah, that's great.
And are these Zoom or are these streaming?
We're currently just Zooming and recording,
Oh, okay.
and then we're placing the meeting on YouTube after the fact. We hope to get to live streaming, live cable cast at some point with the meetings. I do want clarification to something you just said, is that, if somebody is interested in making a public comment from the community, is it best to submit the request prior to the meeting so that we know they're planning on being here?
I like that. Yeah, so at least in that way, we have an idea of who wants to come
Sure.
talk before us, right? Like at least, or somebody who's interested, right? So we're not like, hey, who's this random person that's just here, right? Yeah, so I think that would be fine.
I mean, our meetings are open, so the random person can
Yeah.
walk in off the street if they want to. If they want to set up, they want to let us know they're coming, shall we just use the president email for that?
I think we can use both, right? President's email and the board of directors too.
EOD.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that's fine. I think either was fine.
Just
Does it
clarify.
need a time? Like usually the school committee is like noon that day.
Yeah.
So
Oh, you mean like
that
public
way.
comment?
Yeah,
I'm
like if
sorry,
you're
written
sending in
comment.
a public comment that's written, right? Like you're not able to like raise your
Yeah.
hand or whatever
Yeah.
on Zoom. You could send in your public comment to be read, but it has to be in by noon that day, so that way.
City
I don't know if
council's
there's a time.
Yeah, I'm fine. I know this is something that the bylaws are pretty quiet on. I'm fine with whatever you guys want. I'm completely fine with whatever the board wants to do. I mean, we don't have to come up with an answer now, right?
Okay.
That could be something that we can think about. I like the idea of noon that day. We said city council does it by 4 o'clock that same day. I mean, I don't.
I just don't want anyone who's president struggling, like, oh, I've got to check my email,
Yeah,
like miss
yeah.
something and.
Yeah. Yeah, why don't we we can circle back to that. I mean, we can think about what's the best approach, but I'm fine.
On agenda item for January.
Yeah, that would be fine, yeah.
Okay.
All
And
right,
like whatever the mechanism or deadline, I think it's a great idea that fits with a lot of the themes that I feel like have been coming up in different parts of the meeting.
yeah, agreed. All right, yeah, let's think about that, and then, that'll be an agenda item, you know, when do we wanna have everybody submit that by? And, yeah, that's fine. All right. If there are no other, if there's no other, if there are no, oh, actually, we actually do have a public comment that I guess we can address later, right? That actually came from Katie Bowers, which if we're still on that agenda item, which was asking, what happened to the taping of the Thanksgiving Day football game? I don't know if we want to address that now or if that's gonna come up later.
I'm sorry, what is the question? What does it mean? What happened?
What happened, yeah, I guess what happened to taping the Thanksgiving Day football game?
We did tape it. It's playing on our channel.
It is?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
make sure I'll answer her back. I mean, she can see this now, but I'll answer her back after, so, okay.
Was it the education channel, I would assume?
I believe it's on the education
Education
channel,
channel.
yes.
I know there's a few.
And I believe it might be on our YouTube as well.
Okay.
I let James handle all of that, so.
But we can get her a link.
Yeah.
I'll look it up.
I will, I'll text her back. Thank you.
And this is, just for clarification, this meeting is not currently being live streamed. And so it's just being recorded. So there's nobody watching us right now.
But after the fact,
But after the
Later.
fact,
yeah,
currently, and that will change, so.
I'll answer her back. Okay. All right. I guess moving on to agenda item number 2. We are going to do the approval of the November meeting minutes. I have to say that I have not been really using Robert's rules effectively in the sense of it's just an agenda item right now, so what I probably should be doing is asking, are there any motions on the approval of the November meeting? I'm sorry, has everybody had a chance to read the November meeting minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. Before we get into any discussion, do I have a motion? Do I have a motion to discuss about the approval of the November meeting minutes?
Motion to discuss the approval of November meeting minutes.
So moved by Lisette, is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Eden. All right, now we have this topic properly before us. Are there any questions, feedback, edits, comments, or anything about the November meeting minutes?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Brian had a really great question in his email to the board, and he actually said on the minutes, motion to approve the minutes, and then didn't know if he's able to do that in writing or not.
You know, every board I've served on, no.
Okay.
No.
That's
no,
good to know.
Right,
Yeah.
no. I'm trying to think, I mean, I don't know if anybody.
Cause what if we didn't have quorum here in general, like even with his, like,
Yeah,
I think that would get
yeah. agreed.
So
weird.
what would be the reasoning as to why he couldn't?
It's got it, well, he's not here, but like, every board I serve, yeah, there is a reason why behind it, and now being put on the spot, so I have to.
I'm sorry, no.
No, I have to,
I'm just
I
curious.
have to think back to, I think it's just the simple fact is like, we don't do proxy voting, I think in that way.
Okay.
Unless I think there was like a notice of it, I'd have to go back and read Robert's rules. Obviously, talking about this is going back to like the 1600s, but I believe that there really isn't a proxy vote. Unless there was like under a special circumstance that we would have to do that.
Yeah, which there wasn't.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I think to Eden's point too, if for some reason we were not at a quorum at that point, right? And then like we went ahead and still did it, like, you know, the meeting would be almost like void because we're not at quorum at that point, right? So even if somebody said, yeah, I vote yes on this or whatever, I mean, it doesn't really, you know, it doesn't do anything. So I unless somebody corrects me, I would say no to Brian's
Yeah.
question on that.
I agree. The understanding is anytime there's a written vote is when it's a special vote, where the board cannot physically gather in a space to take the vote,
Mhm.
and it needs to be done in a timely session. So somebody would make the motion via nowadays email, send that to the board members. It would need to be seconded and then unanimously voted on in writing via email, I believe. But that's the only time you would do a written vote.
You know, we had to do meetings over COVID time and stuff.
But that was,
It only counted when you were at the meeting.
yeah, exactly, but you were still present during that
Yeah.
time, right? Even though you were virtual,
Mhm.
you know, you were still
Yeah.
present. So,
It's a pretty special circumstance. I'd say.
yeah, yeah.
But, yeah, I think it's up to the bylaws too, like maybe if we wanted to change bylaws or something,
And-
if that would be stated, but I believe.
And I
There's
think-
some things
Right.
that-
Is there, I was gonna say, I don't know if it was silent. I feel like it was silent about proxy voting, but maybe I'm wrong.
Cause we don't address it, cause we don't do it.
Yeah.
We just don't proxy vote.
Right.
And I think that's good practice, quite frankly, honestly.
I have to agree.
Yeah, unless there was like, unless, you were like incapacitated somehow or something like
Mm-hmm.
that, right? Then I think that, but that would have to be a special.
So when we get to the
circumstance.
bylaws discussion, that might be a good point to
Bring up,
address.
yeah.
Cause I think there is a voting section within the bylaws, so.
There is,
Yeah.
right, but I know, like I said, I'm pretty sure it's silent about that, but
Mm-hmm.
if we wanted to bring that up or bring that forward as a suggestion how, if we wanted to write that in, but, yeah.
Mhm.
All right, since we are still in the approval of the November minutes, if there's no further discussion, I will entertain any motions to forward.
Motion to approve the
Actually,
November.
yeah, right, yeah,
Mhm.
your motion was to, yes, okay, so, okay. So, all right, on the Seth's motion to approve, and
Second.
seconded by Eden, we'll just do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. The approval of the November minute. Oh my God, I can't. Oh, thank God. Break is here, so. Yeah, I have my one. Meeting minutes have been approved. All right, well, we're gonna go on to the strategic plan update. And I will entertain any motions to discussion.
Do you have to move to discuss?
Only, I guess, are we gonna take a vote on this tonight?
That is entirely up to you, and there is no proposed vote. So,
All right, I think we can just, all right, so we can go right into it then. If we're not, if we have to take a vote, then we can properly motion that, but if this is just for discussion or update, then I'll just turn this right over to you, so.
so at our last board meeting, I was tasked by this board of directors to create a one-year strategic plan for our organization, which is what you see before you. This has currently not been made public because it has not been approved by the board of directors. So it has been shared with the UMA team. I did independently write the plan, with feedback on, from the team as far as goal sets for the next year. As you will see in the intro paragraph, these goals are in no particular order, right? But they are all, feedback we've heard from our community, feedback we've heard from our board, and feedback we've heard from our team. 7 goals feels extremely lofty to me for a 1-year plan. Having already done multiple 5-year plans to fruition. However, when I wrote it, I kept in mind that these are all concurrent goal sets, right? And it's not just all on the UMA team to make these goals happen. You are all our partners in this organization, and so there are going to be asks and expectations from the board itself to help us successfully complete this strategic plan, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if everyone's had an opportunity to read it, has comments. I don't know how you want to run the discussion. I don't know if we want to go line by line or. I know that, I'll read, what Brian put in his writing about, he said, "I love the strategic plan. I would ask only that the board discuss and prioritize the goals. There's also a lot of the plan given, a lot to the plan, given the limited resources of UMA, and streamlining said goals through prioritization is advised."
Although before you read that next part,
Mhm.
I'll stop you right there. Again, I will defer to everybody, but I think that maybe just to officially get it on, kind of on, not on the record, but kind of like out in front. I guess if you want to go over just kind of, the
The goals, maybe?
yeah, I was gonna say the goals or the why can't I think that the topics, right, like the board
Sure.
development and what, maybe just give a brief overview of that, just so.
Sure.
Just so we have that, I mean, maybe like a 1 to 2 sentence, maybe,
Sure.
or whatever you feel comfortable with.
Sure. And then I had some feedback on Brian's nose, oops, I mean, hit that. That's okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Why'd your face get with this?
So, as I mentioned, we have 7 goal sets, in the document. We have the goal, the objective, and, strategies underneath those, as well as potential challenges and solutions to those challenges. In a separate document provided to the board tonight and via email, there's actually, metrics to how we know we're succeeding. We're on the right path for these, right? So again, in no particular order, we have board development, which is to strengthen the governance and operational efficiency of our board. And that means things like bylaws revisions, the conflict of interest statement, board member development. I think that's really important to build a really strong foundation. We think about what Rob said in a few meetings back about that time, talent, and treasure. What buckets are we filling? Having a communication with the UMA team and the board to understand what our true needs are for the organization, things like an HR consultant, a fundraising person, those kind of things. Those are our needs right now. You know, those needs may change in the future, but those are the type of board members we should be bringing on and educating on who UMA is and getting board involvement in our operations on a regular basis, making sure that all of our board members are educated to what we're doing right now and able to accurately convey that to the public is really important. That kind of stuff. And then, of course, building up those committees so that the lift isn't so heavy for our regular board members. I think it's so very vitally important for us to build out those subcommittee committees with community members so they get a taste of what board experience is like. They get a voice in our operations, and the commitment isn't potentially as heavy as a regular board seat, but we're building those relationships and those interests to expand our board, right? Potential challenges to that could be, you know, you board members might not want to do bylaw revisions, right? Or something like that, but just making sure that we're clear in communication and what our needs are, and then, engaging community members to be a part of our board. I don't know if that's so much of a problem, because we have a great board and we have a great community and they're all very engaged in what we're doing. But I think we can build that up, right?
Yeah.
So. Do you want me to pause after each one for discussion or?
Yeah, if there's any questions, right? I mean, or we could do, actually, to be honest, in the interest of time, maybe we'll just go right through and then hold off the questions to the end. Does that work for everybody? All right, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. If there are any questions or comments, right? I mean, just so we don't
Yeah,
get
great.
derailed, right?
So we obviously know youth engagement is a huge priority for our organization, for our community, for our board. And so we've known that for a very long time. We've wanted to focus on that, but how do we do that efficiently and with our bandwidth? And so the goal is youth engagement as a general, and the objective is to increase youth participation and engagement in media arts. Some strategies to do that are to partner with the high school media classes, collaborate with local high school media classes to provide resources and mentorships, including offering guest lectures, workshops, and internship opportunities, and develop a sustainable program to enhance that partnership for more local sports coverage, right? Looking at doing team collaboration with the teen center, since they're right across the street, that's some low hanging fruit that we could be actively involved in, right? Designing a summer media camp, organize a paid summer camp focused on media production skills and creative expression. Develop a curriculum that covers various aspects of media production and partner with local media professionals to provide hands-on learning. So that's something I had wanted to try to do this last year, but life happens and we didn't get to it. So we're hoping to launch that this next summer, but it will have its challenges. My understanding is feedback I got when we were talking about this last year is parents need to know about this, right? And we're not in a space to start advertising this in February because we don't even know what it looks like, right? So this is where your experience and feedback is going to be really helpful as parents, because we don't know what you're looking for a paid media camp, right? And also developing an after-school program. Having met with the school district last year, we understand that, programming for middle school age children is lacking in the community. So how can we tap in and be good partners for that? So. Potential challenges could be attracting and retaining youth participants and ensuring sufficient resources, staff, funding, space for youth programs. So the solutions to those would be outreach and resource planning, right? The next goal is the UMA team reorganization. That would be to enhance team collaboration and clarify roles within the organization. One of those strategies would be to define collaborative staff structure. The legacy in the organization has been people work on their own things. I mean, we come back from that background too, right? I hope to encourage a culture of collaborative teamwork. Everyone depends on everyone to be successful in this organization. It's really true. And that goes for the board as well. You're, like I said, you're the other half of our team. So collaboration, not only between the team members, but with the board as well. Making sure that we have written job descriptions, clearly defining what expectations are, what responsibilities are, whom works with who, that kind of thing. And the next step with that would be to offer those positions that the organization needs to the current team and make sure that they understand what the responsibilities and expectations are. And moving forward, there would be a 3-month goal set once that position was accepted with that team member. We would do a 3-month review, and then after that, we would do an annual review at the time of their acceptance of the position. We know that we have some positions within the organization that may no longer fit in the direction we want to go. So how do we make sure we do have the job descriptions that we need moving forward? So there may be, there again, the challenges and the solutions are set out there pretty basic. We know we want to do a long-term strategic plan, so that's another goal in here. Develop a comprehensive 5-year strategic plan. We will need to write a RFP, request for proposals, for a facilitator of that program plan. And then we have to engage in the planning process, which takes a while. Because that facilitator's got to do a needs assessment, we got to do focus groups, we got to talk to our community, we got to gather all that information we need, and then they will help finalize that strategic plan for us by the end of this next year. So, next goal set is fund development, secure sustainable funding to support women's programs and initiatives. So a key component to that will be to identify areas of funding and growth potential. Using our development specialist, Felicia Ryan, research and identify potential funding sources and opportunities of growth, and conduct a thorough analysis of current funding sources and potential new opportunities. We look at exploring grants, corporate sponsorships, and individual donations. A notation on that is what Brian wrote about I don't know if it was in his finance or wherever, but he came across a grant for $20,000 in operating funds for nonprofits, and through his career base, he was able to apply for that for us for charitable giving. We didn't get it this year, and they'll release information on January 7th, and they'll let us know, they'll give us feedback on our grant application, but it's an annual grant, right? So when you're out in the community, you may run into an opportunity like that. And it's taking that initiative and helping, not just expecting Felicia to write it all, right? Taking the initiative and saying, hey, there's this grant I can write, or I can apply for you.
And he'll bring that feedback to the board, or he'll share that with us, because that's.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
valuable.
Yeah, I believe so too.
Yeah.
You know, that was my reaction when we found out we didn't get it. I was like, well, it was a learning experience. We'd never done it before.
Try again.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
And we're all about that, so. It's gonna be beneficial to set short-term funding goals. We set immediate fundraising targets to meet operational needs and launch targeted fundraising campaigns to meet immediate needs. Use social media and community events to raise awareness and funds. So we're already doing an end of year campaign. We're focusing on the why and our new tagline, explore, create, connect. Which we're really excited about and really feel like it just truly defines who UMA is. But that's not gonna be enough. You'll notice in my board report, I mentioned that technically, we haven't brought in a single dollar yet this year for fundraising or sponsorship. And if we had really made a point of setting those goals and really make a plan to reach those goals, we should be halfway, you know, we should have $10,000 in funds from that right now, right? So that's what this is talking about. And then we need to define long-term funding initiatives and goals, which would be to develop a comprehensive fundraising strategy that includes planned giving, endowments, and major gifts, and align these initiatives with the long-term strategic. So that will be part of the strategic planning process. And some potential challenges. This one my eyebrow raised on because I agreed with it, you know, funding competition. We have a lot of nonprofits in the area. We have a lot of, you know, charitable giving, but how is UMA going to be able to throw their hat in that ring and really come out sustaining ourselves, right? And the solution to that is to make sure that we're diversifying our funding. We're not just putting all of our hopes and dreams on grant writing, right? We're gonna try to develop a sponsorship program. You know, our membership and our paid productions are way up from where they were 2 years ago, and they'll just continue to grow. So, yeah. So next goal is community engagement. We want to strengthen community ties and increase member participation. And some of the things we're going to start right away with is like a media makers mixer. So we'll probably, obviously, we're gonna do something big here at UMA after the remodel is done. But ongoing, at least on like probably a quarterly basis, we're gonna try to hold these media maker mixers, and they might not be here at UMA, they might be out in the community somewhere. We're gonna try to do some partnerships. We'd like to get actively involved in the gaming district, actively involved with our local businesses and see how that works. So we're gonna plan to invite not just our current members who are actually making media, but huge amount of community members, especially right here in this little pocket that we're in with all these condos, getting them to come to these events and really engage with the people that are already creating content. One thing we have been working on for the last few months and are finalizing is our membership process and policies. There's still steps that need to be taken just to streamline that and make sure it's really efficient. And we're working on who's following up with how are we doing this contact, how are we keeping them engaged, all of that stuff. And then we set goals for membership engagement. So again, what I like about this is that we're implementing metrics into our planning system, right? So you can make a strategic plan all you want, but how do you know you're getting things done and actually being successful at it? Is it working? So that's part of the strategies within this. And I believe the last goal set on the document is to, of course, enhance our partnership with the city of Malden and the school district. We want to foster strong relationships with our local government and educational institutes. Obviously, they're our biggest funders and our biggest supporters, right? So we want to make sure that we're identifying the full needs of the city, the full needs of the school district, and creating documentation and a process of how we implement that into our everyday work life, right? The other thing is to because we have finalized the contract with the city. We need to make sure that we have a checklist for our annual reporting requirements. We're prepared to answer questions at any point in time, and are as transparent as possible with our operations, which is, of course, is my goal anyway. So, And then again, the secondary document is just how do we quantify all of that, so.
I just want to go on the record and say that this was great, and that I've never. I seen a strategic plan that like identifies the potential challenges as well as this has, I mean. It's like, it feels like it's the lowest bearing fruit when you're like, yeah, this is what we could run into, but I think it's nice when you can actually see that. Under each section that like what we could potentially run into, and so I just wanna say that. This was very well thought out and, I think that. This could be achieved, obviously, this can be achieved in a 5-year plan, but in a 1-year strategic plan, I don't feel like. These goals are like, yeah, we're gonna shoot for the moon and we don't get any of that, so I do wanna say that. This is a very well thought out strategic plan, and then great work.
I couldn't agree more. And I think like also 7 goals does seem ambitious, but there's overlap. Like obviously there's connection between youth engagement and engaging the school district. And I think even if it was only 6 goals, that would still be ambitious, but that's what goals should be. So yeah, this was great. Like going through this at home before was the first time I was like, I think I have like a somewhat of an idea of what I'm actually supposed to be doing and thinking about on the board. So this was like super helpful to me personally. Yeah, it was great stuff. Yeah.
Great, thank you. I have a couple questions, if you don't mind.
I have a couple answers.
Okay, for the subcommittees, because I've never been on a board before, what is the ideal number of residents you would like on each subcommittee? What's like a goal?
So it's a hard question to
Yeah, I
answer
know.
because each one is different
Mhm.
and there are different members on each way. Obviously, we're not gonna have community members on the exec committee.
Right,
But let's use the development committee as an example. So we use the term development because it encompasses a lot, but it really is fundraising, right? And community engagement, really getting people involved with UMA and giving us their dollars.
right.
So I'm saying the more people you have on that committee, the lot,
Yeah,
the less
that's
lift
what-
it's gonna
okay.
be, right?
Right.
I can't remember how many committees we had or.
Are
who
we
had.
going to be redoing subcommittee
Yeah, I think,
assignments?
They're within the bylaws
Okay.
revision.
Every year, right?
5.
Well, we have, the
5 or 6,
2 that we
I believe.
called out that I'm really excited about, we have one that's a programming committee.
Mhm.
And what that is individuals that go out to our community and make sure that we are providing programs and services that they wanna see.
Yes.
Right?
That's great.
So that could be a larger group of people to provide feedback to us. The other one was the membership committee, and I think that was making sure our memberships are getting the services and everything's up in par. So it's sort of an accountability, which I really enjoy having, honestly, within our organization. Was programs and then members and then the bylaws.
There is one.
Oh,
And I should also say too, on that plan, if there's any board members that feel that. There's a committee that's not being addressed, I'm almost positive that the bylaws do state, or the bylaws do allow. For us to form another committee, be an ad hoc committee,
Oh,
though,
okay.
right, so it won't be a standing committee, but. So that's just something to keep in mind, if you see something, and I don't think there's a time limit, so it doesn't have to be at the first of the year, it could be, Eden. Could wake up on April 1st and say, you know what, we're gonna have, everybody loves Eden, so.
I mean, I would be down for proposing that ad hoc one, come on.
So, yeah,
We did rock the bar.
yeah, you could,
We had a committee, but we didn't.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
Or the
yeah.
contract committee,
Correct,
honestly,
yep,
yeah,
yeah,
the
you can do that
contract.
too as
ad
well,
hoc.
yeah, exactly.
So there's 6 called out committees within the new bylaws draft. There's the executive committee, finance committee, personnel committee. So the personnel committee would be not like hiring and firing, it's just ensuring that we're HR compliant, that salary ranges are where they should be, like that kind of stuff. Programming committee I talked about, we have the nominating committee, which is that one actually has a minimum requirement of 3 people.
I think all subcommittees.
I think they're all.
Have to be a minimum of
3,
3,
yeah.
because you always want an odd number.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, correct.
So,
Okay.
okay.
And I have one last question. What was some of the feedback or reaction you got from the staff when we show this?
I have had zero reaction from the staff as of yet.
Okay.
Partly because of my fault. I thought I had sent them the draft the same time I sent the board the draft last week, and I didn't, so I just sent it to them 2 days ago,
Okay.
unfortunately. I did advise them that, you know, this is just what I was presenting to the board tonight. But I take it as a good sign, because I know they've all been eagerly waiting to see it.
Yeah,
So I'm pretty sure they probably read it, but we've been a little busy too prepping for the reports.
Yeah.
yeah.
So I have not heard anything as of yet.
Any other questions for anybody else?
I thought it was great. I guess I can add it, but it's not really necessary, so I'll hold off. Well, I guess facilities, like, is there, I know we've talked about, and it's not in here, and I don't know that it's important, but like, people can meet in here, right? And have meetings.
So that's gonna be part of the community
Outreach,
engagement goal set, yeah,
Okay,
and our membership, sort of our membership outreach as well.
okay,
Yes, so that is our goal, is that we're gonna have available space. Now, the studio and the control room, to clarify, will not be remodeled probably anytime soon, renovated. So it will look like this, but we are gonna work on trying to make it a little bit more easy to do, like streaming and, you know, recording, or if they just want the space, right? So
Right.
we are gonna open it up to that.
So they don't have to be connected to something to do with media to have a meeting here?
We haven't figured out all the policies as of yet. So, because it does require staff time for somebody to be here and to keep the lights on and all of that. So we have to figure out what the balance is to be a good a resource for our community, but also pay our bills, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
whatever that looks like. But yes, that's actually already come up in conversation on the team side.
yeah, cause I have, for those of you that don't know, I'm on Fugi, Friendsville Grove, and it's just this small little nonprofit, that represents a section of Malden, more or less, not really. But, they just do a lot of community kind of yay cheer, like plant swap or fishing derby. But like, we've been having meetings since COVID, I think via Zoom, and we're really looking to get out into the community. So I know they were gonna try to book City Hall, but I mentioned, I know being on this board, that it was available in some respect, but I
Yeah,
was like, I don't know, like I need a key and I don't know how to do that and all that stuff, so I didn't.
And well, also brought up
Yeah.
the idea of it with, you know, Felicia before about opening up the space for community groups that
Right,
may not be able to reserve City Hall or
right. It could
don't
be
wanna
both.
pay to get St. Paul's. or
Right,
whatever.
and all we're looking for is something like this.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
But it could invite more people to be a
Yes.
common space. rather
So many
than in
people have not
someone's
seen the
house.
studio, so
Right.
just like sitting in it,
Right.
even if it's not a meeting related, it's, I think it's.
and,
impressive.
and, you know, taking that feedback, we might even be able to find a small grant to accommodate that staff time and those
Right.
utilities that we're using, right? So that, because we're opening up to a larger group in our community and eliminating barriers. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about community engagement and membership services, so.
But I didn't mean to take us on.
No, I think that's a great question.
Good question.
I know folks from the gaming district are looking for a space as well.
They're actually recording a show here.
I talked with one of them the other day, yeah.
They're amazing and part of our newsletter, actually. I hope everyone had an opportunity to look at the amazing newsletter that went out earlier. So yeah, we're very excited to have them here.
So I guess my question is, what are you looking, I guess this is to the board, right, to everybody sitting here. I mean, I know it's a strategic plan for the year, right, so I guess when are we looking to implement this, like starting in January, starting February, do we want more time to think about this and come up with, you know, any other feedback that we could think of, or do we wanna take a vote on this tonight and then?
I don't need more time. I mean, I think to get started is important,
Yeah.
even if like they're lofty goals, I think we've all confirmed that, like, I don't expect everything to be completed, but at least to get started, and especially for us, the board development and so forth, I wouldn't want to hesitate on acting on that.
Yeah, I say for like the 2025 year.
Well, before any
Sure.
voting happens, I did want to provide some feedback to Brian's comments on the strategic plan, and my ask is not to put a number on the goal sets, to prioritize one over the other, because they're all, in my view, running this organization on a day-to-day basis,
Right.
extremely important. And as you've all noted, a lot of this can run concurrently and falls into each other. That's why I wrote it the way it is. And opinions may defer, it would feel very directive to me if the board decided to prioritize these goals, right? And I would like to be able to do the plan in the way I want to do it and it works in our organization. So that's my comment on the plan.
I mean, I agree with you. You've given us an overview of what the priorities are. We can discuss where we fit in on that and how we can move all any of these goals forward, but the nitty gritty day to day is you. So figuring out, like, if you're gonna have a conversation about youth engagement, it's gonna happen when it, you know what I'm saying? Like, you'll do it when it's the right time to do it, is what I'm saying. But you yourself, having written the plan, know that this encompasses 1 year of work. Personally, I trust when you're going to do it. You know, I mean, like, when you decide is the right time is the right time. Because like right now, we're not gonna be talking about youth engagement because the building's about to shut down, right? Like for renovations and stuff. So I mean, you're the day-to-day person for the overview people. So I appreciate this. Thank you. This is a great overview.
What did Brian say? Did he have comments?
I think he
His-
wanted to prioritize.
He
them,
was,
but-
his ask specifically was to, I would ask only that the board discuss and prioritize the goals.
Okay,
If everyone didn't see what Brian sent out, I'll forward it later.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
so many of these overlap,
Yeah.
and like you said, they run concurrently with each other. It's really hard to prioritize stuff that's already in motion. None of these, I think, are a new conversation for us. I mean, they, like, board development will be expanding them, but, I just don't think that, I just don't know how we would be able to prioritize this.
and you know, I would. Again, there's a reason why we have an executive director, right? There's a reason why Tina's here, is to run a day to day, and so I have enough confidence in you that to know. You know, what has to be worked on, right?
Right.
Like, and so I agree to prioritize one over the other, just kind of feels like the board overreaching its power and like almost. More or less like, maybe, you know, would be over, I think it's a board overreach, that's what I'm trying to say. And so I think I would rather just, you know, instill my trust in you to do what has to be done, basically. And I was just, and I should say, so I'm sorry, and also I should say too, that I think as the board, I think that if we wanted to have an update, right, and I think we can put this as like a standing item as well,
Yeah.
right, like. You know, a strategic update, like
That's
where
exactly what I
are
was
we?
gonna say.
Yeah, where are we?
That's great.
You know, so I think that in that way that we're, you know, we're reasonably kept informed, but. You know, again, I think that dictate to you is just an overreach of our, you know, what we should, as our duty, I guess. So.
Yeah,
Just for context, let me finish what he had said, because I want his voice heard here, but he said, I believe the job training career development goal is missing, and he's absolutely right, it is missing from here, because that is part of the 5-year plan, right?
Right.
That is gonna take a lot of time. and
The workforce
effort to
development
develop.
aspect?
Yeah,
Okay.
develop, but it is on here as part of the strategic planning process, may not be written out, but it's part of that process. He did say of those listed, youth engagement programs, fund development, and community engagement would be top priorities in his eyes. For the board and the staff.
Sorry, which ones? Please?
youth engagement.
Youth engagement, fund development, and community engagement, which I agree with, again, right, but. Again, those are all gonna be concurrent. We're gonna be working on all of this stuff at the same time, so.
does Aaliyah count as community engagement? Does her?
Well, yeah, she's civic engaged. She's
Well, I know she's civic engagement.
Yeah, so, yeah, she's working with our community members, she's working with the school district, she's working with the city specifically. She has been doing amazing works connecting those relationships, and really strengthening them, and
Good.
just amazed at the work she's been doing, so, yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
She's great.
All right, with that being said, I think that probably the appropriate thing to do then, right, if we wanna get this ball rolling, I think that. We should probably vote this into action, right? so that we can start this, in, in January, which is 2 weeks away. All right. So with that being said, I'll entertain any motions, at this time right now.
I'll make a motion to accept not the metrics, but the strategic plan outline for the 2025 calendar year, I guess, and I don't know if we wanna add, like, will there be monthly or bi-monthly, like every other month updates?
I think I can put that out. I think that can be just a standing, and if there's nothing new to report, then she'll just say there's nothing.
Right,
It's just still, we're still going as is or whatever, right?
okay.
But I think that can be a monthly agenda item, right?
I don't know if it needs to be part of the vote, but
No, I'm saying, no, we don't have to put that in. I'm just saying as a state, that doesn't need to be voted. I can just put that, the update as is, or you could, that can be part of the ED report or something like that, so,
Seconded.
all right.
Did you get that, Lori? Sorry.
So what I have is motion to accept the strategic plan outline for the 2025 calendar year. That's all I need to say.
I think, would it be better to use the term approved?
Adopt, you wanna adopt and approve the strategic plan. It's her motion, I don't wanna twist.
What do
her
I have
words.
now?
You have accept, you want to change it to adopt?
Adopt.
Adopt and
And
accept,
approve.
adopt and approve. Yeah, I just don't wanna twist your words on you.
Mm-mm. Wasn't trying to either. It was
Yeah.
processes.
Yeah. And we could,
Oh, I got them.
and we can just, it doesn't have to be a roll call, we can just voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it unanimously, that passes, congratulations.
Congratulations and more
Work.
work. I got it.
Paper about your work.
Peter, if you find you need us to help with something, let us know.
Well, it's laid out in the document for you. I have a whole list of things for you all to work on, so it's exciting.
All right, so we're gonna move on to the next item, which is the update of update of board governance, which is based conflict of interest, the bylaws. And,
Are we skipping number 4?
oh, I'm sorry.
No,
Wow.
yeah, the
I'm
sample.
sorry, the sample board agreement, excuse me.
We weren't gonna
sorry about
find
that.
You accountable.
Yeah, thank you. Tells you I was trying to skip over items.
I did have it at the end.
Sorry, yeah, sorry. Okay, moving on. So we're gonna go to the sample board agreement. I'll start this conversation, then I will turn this over to Lisette to eloquently put this better than I can because I'm kind of clunky. But what you have before you, and I know that was emailed out the other night, something that I think that starting in January, that we should be doing, myself, the leadership team, whatever. Anybody new that we have going, I should say existing and any new board members that we have coming on. I think this is a good outline of what is expected of, board members that want to be a part of UMA. I thought this was a pretty nice, straightforward sample board agreement. As you guys can read, and I guess I'll kind of just lay it out there just because people who are listening on Zoom won't have access to this, but basically it's more or less similar to your employee handbook and what's to be expected of you as a board member that wants to be a part of UMA. So items such as outreach, right? So we are all members of the Malden community and the UMA community, right? And so while we're out there, we should, talk up UMA. We are representatives of this organization as well. So whenever we're out there and, talking it up, making sure that UMA is present in the forefront of most of our people's minds. Yeah, I should say, I don't know, Lisette, is there anything else that you want to add to that part or?
I mean, just in general, or?
Yeah.
So when Luma was lovely enough to send me to the Massachusetts Nonprofit Networks conference back in October, and they had a great session on board development. And so I heard stuff I hadn't even ever knew existed about boards, and Tina and I and Emmanuel have had great conversations about board development and really bringing the UMA board into like the 21st century. And like this board agreement, again, it's just a sample for us to look at, but like you said, this is for when people like me are like, I've never been on a board, what are some of the expectations? We have a document that sets what those expectations are, especially when it relates to time, talent, treasure, right? It gives the expectations of how we should be engaging the community and what we should be doing to engage in these board meetings, but board development, we will be meeting in January. Did you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I'll go into that.
Yeah, so in January, we'll be doing a meeting, our meeting will be about board development, basically, so we'll discuss more there about, recruiting members, onboarding them, how do we onboard them with an orientation, making sure board members get training, for things that we don't know about, right? Because we want to be the best board we could be, succession stuff after that, you know, how do we, when board members leave, how do we move stuff up like that, so, but I really believe that it all starts with this type of agreement where we are buying in 100% in regards to this duty to serve this board and the staff as best as possible here at UMA. And so again, this is just a sample. If there's anything you guys didn't like or feedback's always welcome. I just pulled this off offline and we could cater, you know, make it any way, customize it any way we want. But I think one of the things that really sticks out here, two things for me are attending board meetings, which most of us do anyway. I don't think that's really been an issue. We haven't had an issue with a board member not attending for a while. And then the other thing is all boards members donate to the board members donate to the organization. So what we could just discuss that at a later point in January, whatever, but I just want to bring that up. Maybe it's just signing up for UMA membership, you know, but making sure all of us are UMA members, right? And stuff like that, but we need to make sure that we are contributing time, talent, and treasure from each of us. So, there.
Yeah, and, you know, I think with yeah, go back to you know, what can we do, right? So I know that, obviously first, like, not too long ago, we had a board member that didn't show up to like 75% of the meetings, right? And so, you know, I think obviously being engaged, being actively engaged, participating in some respect, whether it be obviously here, because I think this is where our priority should be as people board members, right? I mean, we're on this board of directors, obviously being here, present and active. But also I think too, you know, I think something for the new year too, whenever like, you know, what Tina was just saying about the strategic plan, about doing the mixers, right? I think that we should be there for that, right? I think being present, and especially at other UMA events as well too. And so I think that's, you know, something that that's like, again, that's low bearing fruit, right? We should show up, we're here, you know, we make the decisions, or we help Tina make decisions for this. And I think that we should be taking active roles.
And we could try recruiting, like actively recruiting,
Yeah.
we're not just attending, but actively
Actively recruiting during these
for
mixes as well too.
subcommittees and stuff like that.
Right, right. Then also too, like the board policies, I mean, you know, I know that we have a couple people out tonight, but like, I know we also have people that didn't show up for a while, right? And without excused absences, so I mean, it's just, you know, just the policies, right? Just making sure that we're on the same page, and I think that this is something that, you know, we can, I think that we can all do this, obviously, right? I have full faith and confidence in this group. I'm not gonna look for a vote on this tonight. I kind of want people to look and read this over, and I want people to come up with their own, you know, if there's anything that we're missing. I think there should be a working and living document each time. I think that this is something that we could all revisit.
Yeah.
You know, whether it be, I don't know if monthly would be an overkill, but maybe quarterly, I should say
I think
bi-monthly.
you
or
describing it
quarterly,
as a handbook as a really great, you
Yeah.
know, I mean, it really is just guidelines for us, it's
Yeah.
not.
to keep us all in line, you know, to
Yeah.
keep it, and again, when people jump on, they know what they're coming into versus, I don't know, feel like we're flying by the seat of our pants, basically, right? So.
Right.
Adam doesn't know. What
I was about to say,
I didn't either, so.
I mean, I think like expectations are important.
Yeah.
And like something like this, this is gonna come out wrong, but like it would have been helpful to
Yeah,
have something like
yeah,
this.
yeah.
Right.
I agree.
You know, as a new
Agreed.
board member.
I agree.
When I joined, it was like, okay, this is the meeting, this date show up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's just like really thick thing that really didn't say anything.
Right.
Right.
And I think also like it may deter people, but it's gonna deter the wrong people. And I think it's gonna attract the right people.
Yeah, I agree.
Right,
Yeah.
and I think setting those expectations up front is really important.
Yeah.
So that, yeah, exactly, we want the right, not, I don't wanna say right people, but you know, we want people who, you know, who care and agree.
Yeah, we're gonna show up.
Yeah, we're gonna show.
Agreed. And who's gonna participate too? I mean, that's the thing about, you know, I've sat on boards where like you show up and everyone's like, oh yeah, whatever, but I actually like this board because everybody's actually active and participating, which is great. And I will say there's a lot of great discussion that goes on this board too as well. So that's what I like about this. So, you know, and like to Adam's point, it's like, you don't wanna get people who are just gonna be like paperweights and don't do anything, right? Like, you want people who are gonna come in and who are gonna like give, feedback, give their ideas, give their perspective, and I think that's, I think that's what a board is, and for some people, this is the first time they've ever served in some kind of capacity like this, so I think it's a, it's a nice introduction into what community work is, community involvement is,
Right.
right, is like this.
Yeah.
You never know, maybe some people will run for city council after.
And many of these tie into the 1-year strategic plan, so that's good, I mean, with community engagement and stuff, so it shows how we are agreeing to participate in that strategic plan actively by agreeing to it through this.
And so my ask, like I said, I don't think there's
I don't
any
think,
need to
yeah.
adopt this tonight. But, for our January meeting that Lisette had alluded to, so that, for our January meeting, we're gonna use this as a working meeting for all of us to, we won't, we'll use this as a working meeting. And I think one of the things that we should work on as board members is this, right? And it's just making sure that, all right, as a board, what are our expectations of every, how are we gonna hold each other accountable? New members accountable, what are we gonna do, moving forward for the year 2025 and beyond, and so, I will wanna revisit this, I think this is gonna be another agenda item that I would like to come back to, in January, and like I said, take some time to think about what can we add, what kind of sounds repetitive, what can we add? And like I said, this is a living, breathing document, so that this can always be revised, when need be,
Right.
just like an employee handbook, right? They make you sign that every 6 months. It is your pen. All right, moving on to the next agenda. I'm sorry, are there any questions or comments, feedback? All right, now, moving on to the next agenda item, which is the update of board governance documents, which is the conflicts of interest, the bylaws, and, I can't remember what else. I think that was it, right?
Conflict of
The
interest,
Secretary of
bylaws,
State.
conflict of interest, confidentially, there's two disclosure, like the disclosure form too, she sent.
And you had mentioned the Secretary of State's website update. Did you want-
Yeah, that.
Yeah, we had to wait until this
Oh, okay.
meeting to clarify. I don't think there's any need for the board to like
Perfect.
do anything. We just need to solidify that our current officers are our current officers and our current board are their current board, and there's nobody new being added before the end of the year.
Okay.
Yeah, and I tried to get everybody's like name, address, anything state might need. I think I sent that
Yeah,
out for everyone to check.
yeah.
Okay, so we can move forward on doing that sometime in the next few days.
Mhm.
Okay. It's pretty easy. We tagged team done it last year, yeah, so. Okay. Do you want me to launch into the
Yeah,
bylaws?
okay.
All right, so I'm gonna jump right into the bylaws. I wanna keep, keep us flowing here. So I've been working closely with Emmanuel, and, Rob, the young lady from Rob's office, Katie. We're really getting these bylaws narrowed down. She's done an amazing job helping us identify cleanup areas of, clarification, that kind of thing. So there are a few things, I wanted one, and everybody get to see the latest draft, have, that kind of thing, have an opportunity to look at it, or at least review the comments left on the document, because these are the ones I wanted to address with the board this evening. Now, we can say this if you want, as you're having a work session next month, and this is when the rest of the board is starting to getting involved in this process.
Mhm.
We could hold on this discussion because the comments are on the document, and you could take this into the work session next month.
Okay.
It's up to you. But I wanted to provide an opportunity to ask any questions on those comments if you needed to.
I don't, obviously.
Because my comments are in there, so you can go off my comments and her responses to have the discussion.
I think that would be
Yeah,
best.
that's fine. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I like that.
Because my recommendation at this time is I would not approve these bylaws as is. I would wait until you've had a chance to thoroughly approve them or
Yeah.
to review them and identify
I agree,
anything else.
I agree. I think-
Right, and setting that as an expectation for the January meeting, I think is.
Yeah.
Well,
kind of
we
kicks
need-
us all to like in the butts to have to
And-
really review them and.
And to be honest, and I would rather have a full board
Yeah.
to go over that too, right? I would like to have Brian and also Jonathan present for that meeting as well too, so.
Are we gonna need extra time to do bylaws and member agreement? I mean, is that?
I think we should be able to get
Okay.
those in. I,
Yeah, I mean,
Just
cause you could always,
asking.
oh, no,
Yeah.
no, that's a fair question. I mean, and you could send any comments about the member agreement and stuff like
Right.
that via the BOD email,
Okay.
but anytime beforehand too.
And can you send her all the papers we're gonna need ahead of time?
Yeah,
Maybe more than
yeah,
a day
absolutely.
from the
Yeah.
15th, yeah.
I did wanna call out one thing in here because it pertains to the agreement we were just talking about. Let me find it. About board members being members,
you know,
Oh, okay.
um,
So we just figured out how to look at the comments.
Ah.
So I could use that sometime. The preview on Gmail was not showing it to me.
I was just hoping they didn't forget anything.
let me see.
No, you-
I'm like sitting there counting, 1, 2, 3. And then the other things slip it off.
Sorry.
Got you.
that's the whole thing.
Usually.
There was verbiage changed.
That's always.
Okay. So just an FYI, the verbiage in the current bylaws says that our board will not be less than 7, which it currently is at. And more than 11. So we technically would not have quorum if we lost a board member. So we should be recruiting.
Yes.
Well, we still have to fill in Karen's seat now.
Yeah, we have,
Yes.
actually Karen's seat will not be filled until the annual meeting next year, as she is the member seat.
Well, don't I
We
have
have, we'd have to run a special
election to get that one?
So we might as, but we have plenty of appointed seats open.
Yeah,
Yeah, you said how many, 3 appointed seats open still?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was thinking I could appoint somebody to finish over her term.
I thought you could, and then they had to run for election, because
Yeah, that's what I.
That's how I did
Yeah,
it.
that's how I did mine
Yes.
too. I have
finish
to,
somebody's term.
yeah, I finished out somebody else's term. And then I had to run again.
I think you did the same thing.
I think
so,
if we
yeah.
focus on setting the appointed seats. And be prepared to run a
Yeah.
member election, which we always do in the annual, that I think we would be fine.
Okay.
I wanted to, there was somewhere here in the verbiage, I can't find it specifically. It stated that each. Board member is required to be a member of the organization.
Okay.
So for clarification, so. You'll want to pay attention to that if that is going to. Provide a hardship, but the part is that could be considered your monetary donation to the organization as well.
Okay.
Mhm. So the nice thing about that is then we would all be members of the organization.
Right.
And I think that's important as a membership organization. So.
Yeah.
Okay,
Any other, all right, before we move on, any feedback, comments, questions or concerns?
on the bylaw.
On the bylaws? If not, then I will move to have this, to have further discussion in January on. I don't see that there is none. Right on to the conflict of interest.
So again, the law office provided us with suggestions for a conflict of interest policy as well as a confidentiality and conflict of interest policy and disclosure form, which I believe means you would sign that you read the confidentiality policy or the conflict of interest policy. There's a lot of C's in it. Right?
Yes.
Again, this is presented to the board for review. No action is required, as far as I know of this evening. However, I do want to bring to the board's attention in a public forum that Androsa Rose, our associate director, did have commentary on this policy and has some concerns that I brought to the board to read aloud for discussion. So part of the requirement for our INN membership, which is that international news,
The independent news.
independent news network, I believe it is to have a written conflict of interest from our board of directors. Anne's concern, and I'm just gonna read it from her statement, is I am proposing that the board consider the conflict of interest posed by a board member running for public office or serving as an elected official. Because UMA runs both a government access channel and a citizen journalism publication, we are in the business of covering local government in a variety of ways. Other nonprofit entities that are in the local news business maintain a separation between having local elected officials or people running for public office on their board in order to combat public perception that there is any type of bias in the coverage. Although I know that our government access coverage has always been dealt with in a completely fair and an impartial manner, public perception has played out in such a way that a certain segment of the community feel that there is a conflict. The conflict is more pronounced when it comes to Neighborhood View, our citizen journalism program. Any coverage of a news story that shows a board member who is an elected official or someone running for office in a positive light could be construed as bias and could degrade the public perception of our local journalism initiative. I am asking that this issue be explored and considered before reaching a final decision on whether or how to include this in a conflict of interest policy. So is that clear?
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember even you may know off of Facebook from last year, but I don't remember there being any talk about Ari running and also being a board
Oh, there
member.
was.
Was there
Well, there
talk?
was in
Oh,
a sense.
Mhm.
I should have told you that. Based on these lyrics.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But,
But
yeah,
I mean,
there-
like, in
there
regards to
was.
people who were running last year and who were board
She
members.
said there was no conflict by the state, but I agree with
Oh,
Aaron's
no,
concern,
yeah.
and I think we should include it if there's a request too.
Yeah, no,
Like,
I
if
have
you're
to
going to
agree.
run, if I'm going to run, I should not be on UMA board, period.
See, I tend to disagree in the sense of obviously as having served, and I mean, I don't, obviously, it's no secret that I served at one point, but. You know, this, like, on the school committee, we never had oversight over UMA, city council doesn't have oversight over UMA either, right? And in a town that we already have a tough time getting people to run for office, I think that, and I get it, right, I wasn't gonna say the name out loud.
Sorry,
but it's
no,
okay,
no, I didn't mean that.
No, no, it wasn't taken as, I was
Yeah.
gonna, but I do remember reading the comments on Facebook and being not particularly like impressed with any of them,
Yeah.
and especially from the people that they were coming from. But,
Mm.
you know, and again, and I'll be very transparent that I would vote no against putting this into the conflict of interest, right? And so, but this is gonna lead into what I'm gonna say after. But for me personally, especially that my background came from like running for office and whatnot, that I would not be comfortable telling people, no, you can't run for office if you're gonna sit on this board. I would like to have, and again, I think this is the conflict of interest is, if you're gonna take that vote that has a direct conflict against UMA in some particular way, then you need to recuse yourself, right? That's why we asked for that abstention part.
Oh, yeah.
You need to recuse yourself from taking that vote. However, though, with that being said, I also don't think though, because we're gonna have differing of opinions on this, I mean, it's just the nature of it, right?
Mm.
I would rather have a third party I would have a third party, which would be Rob's group, right? The attorney that we've been working with to come up with language, right? Is there any language in any of the organizations that they work with? Do they have language that deals directly with somebody running or trying to hold office? That's where I would be.
Well, the
more
flip
comfortable
side
with.
too is that if someone decided to run for office who was already on the board, you have to step down and then
Right.
that could,
Right,
but.
I think the state's bar is low, I'll say that, and I
Okay.
disagree, I would add it. Period, and if you can't, I know it might mean less people, but I do think it's important, because anything a person running does publicly, good or bad, or however it's perceived, might have a reflection on UMA, and if we're running government channels, like, I just think, or debates or anything as a 501c3, I think it's a conflict of interest and we shouldn't be
But,
part of it.
You know, the same thing could be said too about anything else, right? And I'm not trying to defend one way or
Right,
another.
oh, of course.
But what I'm trying, I guess. same thing could be said about, like, if I start like
As a personal
controversial.
human being, but I am not running for office and I see a distinction between the two.
No, but I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, on Facebook, right, I think I'm friends with
Right.
half the city on my Facebook
Sure,
page at this point, right? But what if I start going and liking, I don't know, and I don't really, I'm not gonna start making specific examples, cause I don't want anybody coming after me, but if I start liking something on my Facebook page and you see it, and then you say, hey, but Manuel's the president of UMA, but yet he's liking whatever the heck it is that goes against my views, does that become now a conflict of, even though I'm not running for office, even, you know, I mean, I guess it could always be like applied to any of us, right, whether we're running for office or not. We are still representatives of UMA in some capacity, even though we live in this community, we may not be running for office, but we are somewhat serving our community and as a whole, so. Again, I think that barring people because they're running and then they would be representing UMA in some capacity, we are also representatives in some capacity as well. So I don't know, again, for me personally, again, and this is where my background is running for office, is in politics, is being involved in some way, and so I don't know, for me, I just don't feel comfortable limiting somebody's right to say, hey, you're running for office, but you can't serve here. And yet there's other organizations in the city that do have elected officials that do sit on their boards, right? I mean, there are other community groups that are public facing as well, that also, you know, they do stuff within the community and they do have elected officials on there. I don't wanna, you know, obviously I'm not gonna say the names, but I don't know, again, for me personally, I would rather refer this out to a neutral third party as opposed to us trying to include, because again, I think if it's up to us, we're not gonna, I feel like this
Yeah,
is
then
one
we
of those
come to
where-
a vote
Yeah.
and then whatever wins, wins. And I'm
Yeah,
fine
I
with
think
that
that's
too,
great.
even if
Yeah.
I don't win or whatever my opinion isn't the majority, I'm okay with
Yeah.
that as
I
well.
mean, because I don't think any of us have that legal background to
Right.
know exactly what precedent has been set.
I do think it's
Otherwise.
important to clarify the distinction between our 501c3 organization and others within the community. We run a government channel, we run an independent citizens journalism program. But to clarify on that, it's an independent citizens journalism program. We post whatever our citizens are writing. It's not UMA promoting.
Right.
To clarify, we cover the public meetings. We don't promote them, like, we don't, well, I guess that's not true, we do not that, but, okay, debates are a perfect example. We cover debates, we never host them.
Right.
We are completely unbiased in we offer every single candidate an opportunity to speak in our studio. If they decide not to during an election year, that is they have to provide that in writing. We have policies and procedures in place at this organization to be as transparent as possible with our coverage. I understand Ann's point. I worry as an organization that promotes free speech and community engagement of putting an actual verbiage that could, you know, prevent somebody from being a part of our organization and also engaging in their civic, you know, responsibilities, duties, whatever they want to do. I also worry that any kind of language, barring somebody from running for office or being in office could potentially come back as a breach of contract with the city, because we now have to have a city seat on our board. So I'm putting that out there for consideration when you're thinking about this. Anne did say that she has, happy to do further research or refer you to a member of our neighborhood view advisory committee, which we now have, who has many decades of experience in journalism reporting and ethics. I agree, an outside source would be really beneficial. I'm not sure. I think it should be somebody that deals with community journalism or community media centers specifically, not as a general resource, because there's a difference, right? We have an obligation, as Eden pointed out. So if it's gonna be considered, I ask that it be considered from all angles and very carefully implied within our documentation.
I'm not a 501c3 that's working on bylaws, so we're facing kind of the same thing. And one thing that's been mentioned is anybody can be a member, but if you're an elected official, you can't be on, say, the executive board. And there's also talk about if they're a member, they don't have voting rights, but they can they can talk, they can do everything, they just can't vote on the certain things.
Well, that would be recusing yourself, and I think,
Yeah.
I think there's commentary within the agreement itself about, representing the organization. I think if you tweak the agreement, you tweak the conflict of interest, I think that there's a way to ensure that UMA is represented as an unbiased
Right. Well, it's
organization.
like you said before, like you're wearing your UMA hat when you're here, and when you're doing your other things, you're wearing that hat for that. And so, yeah, but I think getting a third party opinion would be important on this.
I'm happy to forward the email from Anne to the BOD address so that everyone can review and make sure that they're understanding clearly what her ask is as well.
Yeah, I can forward it out.
Can I ask a
Thank you.
dumb question? So if we have to have a city seat on the board, right?
Mhm.
How could we possibly restrict people from running for office? Wouldn't that be an obvious?
Well, we don't know who the city government, right? That's for the mayor's office.
So
Okay,
the mayor has, for
I see.
our
Gotcha.
current agreement,
Okay.
the mayor has the
Got it.
opportunity to put somebody on our board.
Got
It could be anyone, it's not classified.
Yeah, it doesn't
Could
have to
be-
be an elected official.
Yeah,
it could
it could be an elected
the
official,
staffer.
could be, it could be anybody.
Do the
understood.
parking.
Yeah.
be-
Okay.
Yeah. Literally anybody, yeah. Well, good, because I have a few parking tickets. I need.
And tell Ann, thank you for
Yeah.
bringing that up.
Yeah.
So that's important and something good to discuss with the board, because that's,
Good discussion.
yeah,
Again, that's what I like, is good discussion.
that's a good discussion.
That's
Was
all we
that it?
have for
Okay.
governance.
Okay.
Because
And we-
you'll address this again.
Yeah, in January. Yeah, we'll put that on. Actually, you know what? Maybe I should mark these off that, these 3 items are gonna come up. I'm sorry, 2 items, the board agreement and the update of the board governance will come up in
Well,
January.
this too, because you have a
conflict.
goal
Can
setting.
I ask- I'm raising it. Can I ask a question? Did Ann receive any official letters of complaint in regards to this? Is that, I guess I want to know what the background is for her having brought up these concerns to.
I can't speak to that. It's a good question. Again, this harkens back to last year and other
Yes.
things, all I know is, and I'll state this publicly, is that UMA had no bias whatsoever in the coverage. We did our due diligence to be as transparent as possible in everything we did. And again, Neighborhood View is a citizen journalism program. UMA team is not writing those stories. The
Right.
citizens of Malden are, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is a good thing. That's what we want.
Right.
We want our citizens to be actively involved
Yeah.
and highlighting.
Yeah.
things, right?
All right. Moving on, actually, does Brian have any?
His only suggestion is to format them in our branding colors.
Good
Yeah, we can
suggestion, I
do.
Love it.
All right, I don't, obviously, we don't need a vote right now, right, because we'll come back and work on it, and this is something I really have to feel for.
Yeah.
Present for the next month, so. With that being said, all right, we're gonna jump into item number 6, which is the ED report, and I will turn this back over to Tina again.
You all read it?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm seeing head shaking. I kept it short and sweet this time. You didn't read it?
I didn't read it, no, I did
Oh.
not, I should have. I saw the diagram though, I did, yeah, listen, I'm like a pop-up picture kind of guy. I went to that.
In your face.
I kept it short and sweet.
Sorry, that was my bad, this month
Yeah.
I flubbed on it.
That's all right, that's all right. Biggest thing is, from now until next year. My whole focus is on a first floor complete renovation. And when I say complete, that means everything except for the studio and the control room. Every surface of this facility be renovated, and I'm super excited about it. What I'm even more excited about is that I confirmed with Senator Lewis's office yesterday. The chosen contractor that we had for the ceiling tiles came in way under budget. So the entire project will be funded through the earmark funds from Senator Lewis's.
That's great.
That's amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
So when we talk about the entire project, what the this is gonna be is replacement of the entire drop ceiling. The drop ceiling was damaged for decades of a leaky roof. There is bat insulation, which is that pink stuff that lays on top of it and weighs it down. All of that will be removed and the grid will be rehung to industry standards. Because the reason it's drooping is because somebody hung it with nails instead of like properly hanging it, right? Okay, so welcome to my life. I'm learning a lot of things. I'm learning a lot about remodeling.
Instruction.
Yeah.
So that's just the ceiling project. The ceiling project came in at $35,000. We were earmarked for 60K, which is fantastic. So with the extra funds, we are able to make both of our upstairs bathroom and our kitchen completely ADA compliant. Which makes me very happy. So the bathrooms will be modeled to have hanging sinks so that it has wheelchair access. All obstacles will be removed and they will have the proper bar system in place around both lavatories. There also have LED lighted mirrors so that if there are people that want to put on makeup before their show, that'll be there. Accessible water fountain, hand soap, like the whole 9 yards, it's all gonna be accessible. New flooring throughout the entire facility, the bathrooms will have new tile and the kitchen will have new tile, new carpeting throughout the rest of the facility. New paint, everything will be painted and branded in our normal colors, so they'll look like my office, white walls, black trim.
Nice.
We have dark carpet coming in and then white furniture, so it's gonna be all nice and bright and fun.
Yeah.
And then once the renovation is complete, we're intending to get some fun wall vinyls put on with our tagline, so Explore, Create, Connect, really try to draw the eye in from the street. We're looking at different monitor systems for the front lobby, different reception desks to open up that front lobby even more. Potential meeting space once we get the smaller reception desks, so like a little meeting space, that kind of thing. Edit. Two, the small edit room will be converted into an office for Felicia and Aaliyah. And all of our edit computers will go into the larger edit room. And that is gonna be completely reconfigured, so you can fit 6 people in there at a time.
Wow, that's great. Wow.
Lot of work. The team has been working diligently the last few days. We have to pack up everything. Everything in the entire facility has to be brought into this room. So I've been coordinating with both with 2 separate contractors for the project, moving company, whole 9 yards, so. So we are starting on December 26th. The project will start on December 26th. We're doing a garbage haul. We have the movers coming on the 27th. And then the actual project will start on Saturday, the 28th. I've got 2 amazing contractors that are willing to just work straight through. Our goal set is to be finalized by January 9th, the night of your meeting.
We don't know that yet. That's-
Oh, maybe. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to bring that up. Sorry. Anyways, our hope is to have all the construction done by Thursday, January 9th, which also happens to be the day I'm flying to Minnesota. So Terlanza was going to oversee the end of the project for us. And we hope to reopen on Monday, the 13th. Now, I say this tentatively because anyone that knows a remodel or a renovation knows that sometimes things don't go as planned. So we're planning it to, at the very least, have everything done but the kitchen by that day. So
Okay.
bathroom, ceiling, flooring, the whole 9 yards, and the flooring in the kitchen will be done. We just may or may not have our cabinetry in yet. So.
Can't wait.
It's exciting.
I know.
That is
Can't
very
wait. It's
exciting. Wow.
With that being said too, that I shall say from January through March, I believe our meetings will be at City Hall, just to get that officially out there. So while this is all going on.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, we will be completely shut down until January 10th at least.
Okay. So we'll still have to have the meetings at City Hall though, if they're.
Yes,
Yeah,
there's a
yeah.
production in here on Thursday nights for now,
Yeah.
for the first part of the year.
I was gonna say until, I think it's like, I think we'll be back here for the April meeting. I believe there's one more come back, right? Am I correct on that?
I want to say yes,
Right, I think it's, yeah.
but it might be April too.
When we do meetings at City Hall, they tell us what we're meeting with them. So when we send out the minutes, we'll have a meeting,
Yeah, so that, yeah, so we'll have- yeah.
that varies depending on their use.
Other than that, I just wanted to point out that I did a financial graph in my ED update, and I'm pleased to say that we're at 51% of our income goals this year, so far, and that's without bringing, as I mentioned earlier, anything in from our workshops, fundraising, or sponsorship programs, which was over $20,000 goal. So imagine what we could be doing,
Yeah.
right?
Actually, it'll be different.
Yes,
Yeah.
I plan on it. And then again, I want to encourage every board member to make sure that you're following us on social media, that you're sharing, especially our end of year campaign. I'm actually gonna be doing some videos tomorrow. I tried to do them this morning, but I was dealing with contractors.
Yeah, I saw Anne's video.
So Anne did one, Aaliyah's done one, Felicia's done one. We're kind of just, again, working on that why and the tagline. So really encourage you to get actively involved.
Which social media do you use?
I believe they're using Facebook and Instagram for sure.
LinkedIn too, I think, right? It's positive, I share something from LinkedIn.
Yeah, I think.
Right.
I would also encourage our board members, if you have not yet subscribed to our newsletter, you should be doing that. There's some amazing content and information coming out of that as well. We'll open it up to any questions or comments. Yeah,
Just a general question in regards to that $0 fundraising. That would be something we would discuss in like our development subcommittee with Felicia, right? If we want, okay.
nobody's gonna comment under the city of Malden news at all.
I sent you an email.
He did.
That is supposed to-
Contracts executed.
Oh, yeah. Well, I would think that's a huge congratulations. I was like, wait.
That's what I
Some
said.
at least deserving of a thought.
Yeah, I was like, did I miss something? I was like, what happened? No, that's.
It's in bold with multiple.
Yeah. There was a whole email chain going, and I was like the last one to respond. I was like, oh, like I can see it when I'm going on at work, and I'm like, oh, I'm like, this is awesome. And I'm like,
Yeah,
and I'm like responding at like 7:30. I'm like, congrats, everybody.
I didn't check the board email a few days, so I missed it when you first did it, and then as soon as I saw it, I forwarded it to everybody.
Which is a huge congratulations.
Congrats.
Congratulations. I know a lot of hard work that was put into
Yes.
that.
I'm super excited. Did a big old handshake and just really happy to have it finalized. And now we have, such a strong partnership and support for each other, the city of Malden and UMA. And I'm looking forward to what we're gonna be able to do in the future. Yeah. Yay.
Yes, everybody. All right, moving on to the finance report. I don't know if there is one, if Brian submitted it. I think he did. I think I put.
I guess stepping back to the ED report, he did put something in about that grant, and he said, please share that I brought a special grant for financial professional for UMA, which would have been $20,000 and had been accepted. Had it been accepted, it was rejected with outcomes to be published January 7th. Hopefully it will provide some insight into why it was rejected, as the grant is recurring and might apply in the future. Note that all board members should be searching for grant opportunities in their respective professional spaces. Felicia will do the work, but we should be helping identify opportunities. I want to clarify that Felicia will help do the work.
Yeah.
For financial report, he says, I'm in on QuickBooks Online. This is a pretty big, with an exclamation point. He says, this is a pretty big deal, as I can audit finances remotely and be able to prepare ad hoc reports on assets and cash flow, for example. I look forward to expedited monthly audit processes.
Nice. Great.
That's his report.
All right, with that being said, I can't answer any finance report. Obviously, you can. So I
I
don't,
can answer a question that might.
are there any questions or comments?
We're not negative in the bank account right now. That's what I can tell you.
Yeah, that's a great. Yeah. All right, with that being said, we're gonna move on then to old business. Is there any old business that we have to bring up that we,
I think it's all been covered.
right? All right. New business, I put down January 9th, 2025 meeting instead of January 16th. I will be out of the country on January 16th. I didn't realize that my trip is coming up that quickly. I booked this thing back in like August. And I realized that the 16th is actually a Thursday that we'll be meeting. And so my ask is of you, of the board or the board that's here tonight. Instead of meeting on the 16th, if we are okay with meeting on January 9th. If not, if that does not work, and you guys wanna go ahead and meet without, obviously you would step in on the 16th. There's also the week after, which would be the 23rd, I believe, which I think is the last Thursday of the month. I was trying to get it early, earlier in the month, but whatever will work. You guys don't have to make a decision now, I guess, in the next few days, check your calendars, make sure that, if the 9th works, we'll move it to the 9th.
Will you be back on the 23rd?
I'll be back in the, Lord willing, unless I get kidnapped.
I can say the 9th works better for me right now, but probably won't be working yet, whereas the 23rd, it'll probably slow at first, so I'm not too worried if it were to be the 23rd, but at least won't probably be working.
I would also prefer the 9th to the 16th.
Okay,
Or you mean the 23rd, the
And it
16th?
gives us
Both.
flexibility with the weather, just in case.
yeah, okay, so we'll move it to the 9th then.
Okay.
Um,
Is it still gonna be at 7 PM?
7 PM, we'll do it at City Hall, room TBD by the city.
I will not be at that meeting. I will be flying to the Midwest at that time. So I will not have a board report as well because we'll be doing renovations.
But I think that meeting will be actually, I mean, if we're
We're
already.
doing this
Yeah,
stuff anyway,
yeah,
it's a working
exactly,
meeting
so,
for
yeah.
us, so.
So
If you
my,
have stuff to fill, email it, I'll include it, right? There's nothing.
I don't intend to have anything.
Yeah.
Well, because I am working through what is supposed to be a holiday break for the UMA team, including me. I may extend my vacation time into January, to give myself a much needed break, honestly. So. My question to the board is, do you want a Zoom link set up for that meeting? Do you want it recorded, or do you want to treat it as a work session? With no,
I think it's better to treat it as a work session. I'm sorry, I should not be, I forgot.
Mhm.
I should reserve my comments after. Everybody talks. I apologize, I'm sorry.
Thank you for influencing.
Yeah, I
us
know, that's
now.
actually.
So the working meeting means it's not recorded, is that the difference?
No, we could, right? I mean, if we want to treat it as that, we could.
I mean, if we're gonna be discussing we will be discussing the bylaws and conflict of interest during that meeting though, right?
Correct.
So it should probably be recorded, at least for that.
But we'll be at City Hall. Do you have any influence on, not influence, but just? Would
well,
they
I
set it
can,
up
so
there?
what I would do is I can set up a Zoom link and get it to Lori, but you all would have to get it going at City
Okay.
Hall and it's through UMA. It's UMA's account, so I don't even know if you have the login to like
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah,
start recording.
we.
City Hall depends what room you're in as to what you can use, like Zoom versus meetings and stuff. I remember there's some.
I think there's only one room that doesn't have it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it might have to have a team member available to get you set up in the Zoom.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean,
That
if you
night.
could meet, is it
Oh,
possible
you
to give me
probably
the login?
Yeah, you
and-
probably can have the login.
Yeah, and then I can just, if we
Yeah.
need city assistance, I mean, we could contact the.
So I just wanna know
Communication
that,
officer,
okay,
but
so you
I'll
do want a Zoom link so you can record it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Or request a meeting, a room with, that does Zoom.
Yes.
Yeah, can you request the room too, Lori?
Yeah.
Is that you,
Yeah.
so the other thing is I normally record the Zoom recordings to the actual desktop of the computer I'm using.
Mhm.
So we'll have to figure out where that recording is going to live.
What's good, right?
It's recorded.
Yeah.
If the City Hall knows that stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, usually if City Hall records it on Zoom, they house the Zoom link and then you just ask them for it and they give it to you, but. I
Make
don't know,
make a test run.
yeah.
So
we'll
what,
figure it
I'll
out,
talk,
don't
I'll
worry.
talk to Trelonzo tomorrow.
Okay.
He knows all of the tech
Oh,
over
yeah.
there. I'll ask his opinion. You know, we could even see if the council chambers were open and we could.
Not on
No.
Thursday.
Mhm.
Just.
Yeah, Thursday, they usually have.
They're
like-
pretty booked. that's
Yeah,
why.
that council chamber's never open.
Okay.
Very rare.
I will talk to T about it.
But technically, the council chamber would be the easiest because that's the one.
We have cameras in there.
Yeah, okay. All right,
We'll do a test run. a little bit. All right. We have now come to the end of the agenda. However, though, we do need to go into an executive session without Tina here. So, and actually, I will say that we do need to go into an executive session for the purposes of discussing the ED contract, obviously without Tina. But the reason why we have to go into executive session to discuss the contract is for the purposes of, if we were to discuss this out in the general public, this could this could potentially have a detrimental effect on any kind of ongoing negotiations that we'll be entering in with the executive director. And so that due to the sensitivity of this, it is not appropriate to discuss in the public session. And so I will ask any motions at this time to go into an executive, oh, I'm sorry, and
Do you include that we're gonna end with this?
yeah, and I was about to say that, and actually, there's a very, and also there, I'm not expecting to come out and adjourn in the general public, back in the public forum. So we will adjourn inside executive session as well. With that being said, I will entertain any motions right now to enter into an executive session for the purposes of discussing the executive director contract.
Make the motion.
Motion by Eden,
Second,
seconded by Lisette. Clerk, call the roll.
Yes.
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 Mayor?
Yes. All right, thank you, everybody. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, all that fun stuff.